Welcome back, folks, to Pits to Podium. This is myself, Soumil Arora here, and yeah, it's been that sort of a race yet again at Spa-Francorchamps. Slightly dull, but there were so many talking points to analyze. And before we begin, folks, don't forget to subscribe to Pits to Podium. We've got a lot of content coming up. We've got the likes of William Punisi, the head of communications at Alfa Romeo, Mark Sutton, the legendary Formula One photographer Michael Italiano, the performance coach of Daniel Ricciardo, who had a fantastic race today, and also the likes of Alex Lynn, and of course the Circus F1 comic, the amazing F1 comic, coming in and sharing his stories on the channel as well. So don't forget to subscribe. But that aside, let us welcome our two new guests for today. I mean, you may not have seen their faces too much on the Pits to Podium YouTube channel, but they're the people behind the social media. They're the people who orchestrate everything so well. And today is pretty much their video debut. So I've got Nithyanand to my left or right. I guess sometimes Zoom changes things up. And I've got Sundaram right below as well. So folks, firstly, how are you doing? And how does it feel, your video debut today, finally?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Thanks, Soumil. I think it feels great to be a part of the race debrief. So my debut, and I'm looking forward to it.
What about you, Nithyanand?
Thanks, Soumil.
How are you doing?
Thanks, Soumil. I'm feeling surreal. I'm glad to be part of this video, and I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Lots of things to talk about. It may have been a slightly dull race weekend, but still a lot of things that we can dissect and analyze and try and find out the major implications of everything in the championship contention. But let's actually come to our very first topic, which is our Pits to Podium moment. Now, if you're new to the channel, our Pits to Podium moment is pretty much a moment of the day. And normally we go about analyzing what that moment is, but I think from the looks of things, it seems to be slightly unanimous here today. So, Nityan, why don't you tell us what actually is our Pits to Podium moment today?
My Pits to Podium moment goes to Pierre Gasly. He drove an exceptional race. His pass on Sergio Perez at Erug. It is one of the best I have
Yeah.
ever seen. So I'm giving my Pits to Podium moment to Pierre Gasly.
Sundaram, what about you? I'm supposing it's
Yeah,
the same.
I'll second Nithyanand over there. Pierre Gasly is inside line overtake on Sergio Perez. It kind of reminded me of Mark
It's
Webber and
amazing.
Fernando Alonso from a couple of years. So yeah, that's going to be my pits to podium moment as well.
Same, likewise. And I'm sure if Kunal was here today as well, he would have the same take. He, of course, is having the most special day of his life here today. So I think let's leave
Of
him to
course.
that and let him enjoy that one a little bit more. But yeah, amazing race for Gasly. Let's come back to that later on because we've got quite a few topics to discuss. We're going to be speaking about Renault firstly. We're going to be coming down to Mercedes and what kind of a weekend they've had. It's fantastic, of course, but what holds next for Valtteri Bottas? We're then going to come down to Pierre Gasly. What's going to happen for Ferrari in the next couple of rounds? Speak about Racing Point, and then we'll kind of have a good day after the end of that. So let's actually come to Renault first. What a weekend for them. It was literally spotless, error-free. P4 and P5. I think that's the best weekend they've had for as long as I can remember. When they initially came into Formula One, we expected things to be difficult. I mean, back in 2016, we expected them not exactly to challenge for championships, but at least be there for podium places. And yes, we know that hasn't really happened for quite a while, but this has to be one of their strongest results with Ricciardo coming home in P4 and Ocon coming home in P5. Sundaram, the question that I have in mind for you is, do you think it's a one-off, or do you think it's the start of something a lot more sustained for Renault in the next couple of races?
I think Renault had a perfect weekend. At Belgium, they had the perfect low downforce setup, and it worked in their favor. And they didn't. The race was pretty straightforward. There weren't many variables as such. There were not a lot of strategies on play, so it was pretty straightforward, and that's why I think they got this sort of a result. But I think it's going to be one-off. There are going to be certain circuits that would go in their favor, but this one and Monza and probably Bahrain, but the others could be a little more difficult.
Well, what's your take, Nityanan? Do you think it's something quite like what Sundaram has mentioned, or perhaps the likes of Ocon and Ricciardo? I mean, they're a very strong pair. They can maybe drag that car in and hopefully take Renault to P3 in the championship or P4 maybe.
I second Sundaram on this. I believe it is a one-off because of their low downforce setup. If you check their race last year. They performed well at Belgium
Yeah.
and also in Monza. So I believe it might be just a one-off. But they have a head start over McLaren and
Yeah.
Racing Point. They finished fourth and fifth. I believe it's 25 points,
Yeah.
25 points. And McLaren, what I realized from this season is McLaren are struggling on low downforce circuits. And Racing Point, they scored only 3 points. So I believe it is a great weekend for Renault. I expect them to do the same at Monza and also probably at Bahrain Outer Circuit. If they finish third, it sets up something for a certain Spaniard, so he can
Yes.
come and pouch podium position next season.
Absolutely.
So
I would be very
I'm,
happy. I would be
I'm
very
Who
happy if
wouldn't?
that happens.
who wouldn't, yeah.
Who wouldn't?
And
And
yep.
I'll
So
go after you. Yeah.
I would be really happy if Renault finished third because starting next season they will be the only team without any
Yeah.
customers. So this sets up a stepping stone for their future. So I really hope they do well this season.
Absolutely. It's been a tough few years for Renault, but let's hope that this is the start of something very good for that team because, of course, you always wish well for every single team. And we have to congratulate Renault on what they have done today. That exactly puts them in P number 6 in the championship, just 2 points behind Ferrari. But we know how things are going to play out in that bit. And McLaren currently, although it may seem like they're having a bit of a tricky year so far, I mean, they've not been in the headlines more often than not. They are currently in P3, Racing Point are in fourth, then Ferrari, then Renault, and then all the others. But let's actually come back to the people who've won the race, and that is Mercedes and Lewis Hamilton. What can we say about Lewis Hamilton? 89 career Grand Prix victories. That is outrageous stuff. And the interesting part is, he may just end up equaling the great Michael Schumacher with 91 victories at Mugello, at Ferrari's 1000th Grand Prix. Take it with a little bit of a pinch of salt, Ferrari fans. Not too much, just a little bit. But yeah, what a commanding presence Lewis Hamilton has been for Mercedes at the very top. But Hamilton isn't exactly a main concern because we know, and we've seen that for quite a while now, that Lewis Hamilton, when he gets going, you dare try and stop him. He won't. But the main concern was Valtteri Bottas because we said, okay, Valtteri Bottas 3.0, he can perhaps come in, he can perhaps challenge the likes of Lewis Hamilton more often and be the driver that he wasn't for many years. Straight away, we're, I think, in the middle of the season, slap bang in the middle right now. And the same old trend of Bottas somewhat fading in has started to pop up. So, Sundaram, I'll actually start with you. Do you think this was yet another case of, okay, perhaps Bottas having an off day, or just a case of the decline starting for him? Because normally we've seen this is where Bottas tends to tip off.
No, I wouldn't say it's an off day as such. I think it's just the circumstances that he is in. I think Bottas is a brilliant driver. He's up against a 6-time world champion,
Yeah.
so that's a huge wall to climb. And I think he was pretty confident at the start of this race. I think he mentioned that starting second on the grid is not something that he's worried about because Hamilton was starting on the dirty
Yeah.
side of the track. And if you actually look back at the race, Bottas, he started very well off the block, and even after the first corner, he was right behind Hamilton. And somewhere before Eau Rouge, I think he had to lift off or he had to apply the brakes.
Yeah.
That kind of compromised his exit speed on the Kemmel straight. If not for that, I think Bottas could have overtook. I think he would have gone past Hamilton at the end of the Kemmel straight. But I think there's a saying that they say that usually if you can't win the race on the first corner or on the first lap. But in the case of Valtteri Bottas, it's pretty much the opposite. If he wants to win a race, it has to happen at the first corner. It has to happen in the first lap. Because I think today he did want to try and push against Hamilton, but the team did not allow him. And this is not the first time. This has happened several times before as well. And it's going to happen several times in the coming races as well. And I think Mercedes find themselves in a very unique situation. Without Ferrari in the championship battle, they literally have one hand on the championship trophy. But
one hand and 5 fingers. One hand and 5 fingers.
Absolutely. And knowing Mercedes is a team that does not slack. They do not rest on past laurels. I've even heard that they are one of the first teams to turn up at the track, which is something great to talk about a championship team. But knowing how serious they are, I think they do have some room to experiment, but they're not willing to take that. So basically, they're giving the priority to the leading car. If he's ahead, he gets the priority for the strategy. He gets the priority for the pit stops. And this is my main point for Valtteri Bottas. And he said this several times as well, that he wants to fight for the championship. If he wants to do that, he definitely has to up his game on Saturday. That's the only way, because that's the only level or fair ground for him to go past Hamilton. If he turns up on pole, and if he just somehow puts in a very strong first lap, he will have priority for the strategy and pit stop. And that's the only way he can actually try to fight a bit more harder for the championship. Otherwise, I think it's going to be very difficult for him to go past Hamilton on race day.
That's a very good point that you mentioned. That's a super point that you mentioned about Mercedes always prioritizing the driver at the very top. It's something related to the Ross Brown ethos of sorts, because even when Ross Brown was at Ferrari, he had the same thing. If you're leading, you get the priority. If you're not, okay, settle back in. Same case, Michael Schumacher and Rubens Barrichello. And I wouldn't say that Bottas is a Rubens Barrichello, but he's certainly playing that role of the second driver, very strong and commanding second driver that does not create chaos in the team. And that is a very important role. But Nithyanand, this just very well brings me on to the question that I have for you. Is there a scope that Bottas can rise above that? Because Sundaram mentioned, and we've seen it so many times now, that first lap and Saturday, you're going up against Lewis Hamilton. You're bound to have a few occasions where he just completely batters you off. And Bottas is doing a superb job on Saturday as well. But it's just Lewis Hamilton at the end of the day. So what does he do in this case? And because when we consider the fact that on the third lap or sixth lap, there or thereabout, Bottas was already 6 odd seconds behind Lewis or something. And it was really painstaking for me to see that, oh, they're just so far back off. I mean, there just seems to be a lack of intent, but surely there wouldn't be a lack of intent, right? What do you think? Is there a scope for Bottas to still fight back up now?
In Bottas' case, I would say he is not facing any rookie.
Yeah.
He is against the 6-time world champion. So we have to keep it in mind. Like Berger was facing Senna.
Yeah.
Rubens Barrichello against Michael Schumacher. Coulthard against Mika Häkkinen. So it is never an easy job being Valtteri Bottas.
Yeah.
Like Sundaram said, if he wants to get ahead of Lewis Hamilton or get into Lewis Hamilton's head, Saturday is the perfect day. I remember in 99, late 90s, McLaren had a rule: whoever goes first in the first turn gets a priority. I believe Mercedes are also doing the same strategy. Since Bottas starts at the second on the grid, he usually gets that dirty part of the track. That is a disadvantage. Also, Hamilton rarely makes mistake.
Yeah.
If you're up against a 6-time world champion, if you're up against one of the greatest, you have to be at your best in each and every 17 races or each and every races in the season. You should be impeccable.
Yeah.
So far, I haven't seen Bottas doing it, except Austria of the season. But I believe, really hope he comes back with a bang at Monza and tell Mercedes, here we go, guys. I can't beat this guy.
Absolutely.
And funnily enough, one more thing, Nico Rosberg has beaten Hamilton in the 4th season. So Valtteri Bottas in his 4th season as well. So next 11 races, he should be at his best.
Exactly.
It's a very good point. It's a very good point.
That's a very good point as well. And let's hope Bottas comes up with something really special, because sadly, he's the only championship hope that we have now to challenge Lewis Hamilton. It's not about not seeing Lewis Hamilton win. It's just about having a fight. And so far, that's something we've lacked just a little bit too much in this year. But okay, that aside, let's come back to the driver that we chose as our P2P moment, P2P driver of our day, Pierre Gasly. And let's very briefly touch up upon the kind of race that he had, because Gasly has been superb. That's the only way I can put it. Gasly has been superb. I put out a tweet on the Pits To Podium account saying, this guy needs a Red Bull racing car packaged in an Alpha Tauri livery. It's just what Pierre Gasly is all about. I mean, the moment you put him in this very team, he just starts out a whole new level of performance. And what a brilliant race he had today. Went on the very alternative strategy. And if I'm not mistaken, he ended up finishing in around P8 or thereabout, Pierre
Eight, yeah,
Gasly.
yeah.
Yeah. So he's been doing quite well. Actually, Nithyanand, I'll come to you for this one. For Pierre Gasly, what do you think is going right? And do you think this can continue for a much longer time?
I think it will continue because at Red Bull he had different kind of pressure. He is up against Max Verstappen, the
Yeah.
next big thing in Formula One. But here it's more like I call it a reprisal, Gasly's reprisal. Like I believe it's time for Alex Albon to watch his back.
Yeah.
Alex Albon, I believe he is also putting similar performance to Pierre Gasly's Red Bull performance. So I believe if Gasly continues this way, he might get Red Bull seat next season. Coming to this today's race, he drove an exceptional race. He started on hard tires. He overtook Ferrari easily, easy peasy, and also he overtook Racing Point.
Yeah.
It was one of the best races I have seen from Pierre Gasly. Better than last Brazil. Better than I think, better than last year's Brazil. It was
Yeah.
one of the perfect race. Even after pitting for a set of medium tires, he overtook each and every competitors easily. I believe give that guy a good car. He might even finish consistently on podium. I just hope he has the mindset
Yeah.
of coming up against a good driver like Max Verstappen.
Yeah, that was one thing missing out last year. But it's been good to see Gasly reinvented at AlphaTauri once again. But Sundaram, what are your thoughts very quickly on this whole scenario surrounding Gasly and Albon?
Yeah, I think I wouldn't want to see Gasly in a Red Bull car once again because that's a totally different sort of a pressure situation. You're going up against Max Verstappen, and the team always expect both of them to be on par. That's not going to happen. But after his demotion from Red Bull, I think he's been in an amazing headspace right now. He's totally focused, and that's the difference between him and Daniel Kvyat. What I see. After Daniel Kvyat was demoted, he had a torrid season and he was dropped, I think, a year or two after that.
Yeah.
But I think Gasly, he's been in focus, and this year I think if not for this race, he's totally outqualified Kvyat in all the races. So I think he's in a very good zone right now, and we're going to see a lot of such races from Gasly in the next 10 races.
Let's hope so. Let's certainly hope so. And now it is time to bring it on to our joke of the day session. That's what we like to call it. You guessed it. We're not even going to name it. We're not even going to say the name of the team. We just kind of understand. The only kind of hint or indication that we can say is the greats falling down to such a level where they are celebrating a good battle for P13. Yeah, it's welcome to Ferrari. what a terrible year it has been for them. And we did, I think Nithyanand and Sundaram did a brilliant infographic on the Pits To Podium channel, which you can go and check out, surrounding where Ferrari lost most of their time. Middle sector, 1.5 seconds or thereabout in the middle sector. And that middle sector of Spa is all about their downforce. So they're taking a big whooping in the middle sector where you need a lot of downforce, but on the straights as well, they are no good. We ask this question almost every week, and it's becoming some sort of a trend right now. But where do we go for Ferrari now, Sundaram? What goes on next? And in the next couple of races, which is Monza and Mugello, what do you expect for them?
I think it's going to be very, very tough for them. And I think they're not, I mean, this is the worst sort of performance that you would want to have right before you head back to your home Grand Prix. And I think they're going to be relieved that there are not going to be any fans, or even the Tifosi. So they're going to be really relieved there's no fans in the stands.
There may be few. I think for Mugello, the news is coming in. They may have few fans coming in too. watch the race. A few hundred odd people.
I really pity them. I really pity them that they're going to be watching Ferrari's performance. But yeah, talking about today's race, their setup, it didn't work for them. Actually, as a matter of fact, Mercedes and Red Bull were running a higher downforce, and Ferrari were running a lower downforce. But still, Ferrari is struggling on the straights. They're obviously losing a lot on the corners as well, but they're losing a lot on the straights as well. And obviously, I wouldn't have expected them to do better than 12th or 13th. And I was pretty surprised to see Kimi Raikkonen overtake Sebastian Vettel on track. I don't know when was the last time that happened on pure pace, but that was surprising for me. That could be my second P2B moment, the funny one at least. But yeah, it's going to be very, very difficult for Ferrari at Monza because, like I said, Mercedes were running a slightly higher downforce level, but at Monza, everyone's going to be running a lower one. So the gap between Ferrari and Mercedes and even Red Bull is going to be a lot more bigger. And I remember Nithyanand said, he passed a funny statement that maybe Ferrari could be lapped 2 or 3 times at Monza. As much as I hate it, that could be happening. And I think we all have a soft corner for Ferrari for the history or the team that they are. But I think it's a very difficult time for the team.
They're Ferrari, right? That's the one thing that sums it up. They're Ferrari. They are something very different. But Nithyanand, it's a genuine possibility that at a circuit like Monza or Mugello, 2 places where they are bound to struggle. Monza, because as Sundaram mentioned, low downforce. Ferrari don't have the engine power. Mugello, because high downforce. Ferrari don't have the car for that. Do you think they could very well be lapped on their 1000th Grand Prix in front of their home fans at Mugello? It's a real possibility, isn't it?
And adding to your point, Hamilton winning, equaling Michael Schumacher lapping Ferrari. It will be a disaster for Ferrari fans. I don't think so. Actually, we expected worse from Ferrari this week, but still, they disappointed their fans. It says a lot. It says a lot about their performance this season. Charles Leclerc started really well. I thought, oh wow, we are witnessing Fernando Alonso again. So, but he didn't have enough pace. I once again coming to the point, Monza low downforce. They might be lapped. Mugello high downforce. There are possibilities that they might be lapped. And also, to make it worse, they have 3 races at their hometown.
Yeah.
Monza, Mugello, and
Imola.
So
tough time to be a Ferrari fan this time.
Tough time to be a Ferrari fan. I think they have to endure this for another 1.5 years at least.
Yep.
Reaction from Carlos Sainz says it all. I'm not sure why he
reacted. Oh yes.
He nodded his head. I'm not sure if he nodded because of his DNS or is it because of his future employers.
I'll go for the latter.
I'll go for the latter as well.
That's funny.
Oh man, Ferrari fans, if you're watching, it's been a tough time for you, but hopefully it'll come good. But it's been nothing short of an absolute abomination for Ferrari. But let's not dive down deeper into that because we've discussed their woes a lot. And let's not rub more salt into their wounds because already lots of that has been happening on the internet. But let's go to a team that have done very well normally. I mean, they've shown a lot of pace, they've shown a lot of intent, but haven't exactly been able to transform that in today's race. And I'm feeling a bit disappointed because in the predictions video, myself and Kunal were very vocal in saying that Racing Point are going to have a good weekend because traditionally Spa is a circuit where they've had great weekends. I mean, you think of Giancarlo Fisichella in 2009, Esteban Ocon doing a stellar job in 2018 as well. They were quite decent in 2019 too. So you kind of to see things falling into perspective for Racing Point, but no, not happening this weekend. Finishing with a total of 3 points on the whole. So let's actually very quickly get down to the points, Sundaram. What went wrong for them? Why do you think things didn't work out? And what's next, pretty much?
I mean, Racing Point are usually, what I've seen this season at least, they don't have a lot of race pace as compared to their pace over a single lap. So they usually do better in qualifying. But this weekend, like you mentioned, everyone expected a lot more from Racing Point. It didn't work out on qualifying, and I think even in the race, there weren't a lot of chances for them to battle with the Red Bull as well. And I think Perez staying out in his first stint a little bit longer kind of screwed it a bit more for him. But then overall, I think they were really not up to the mark this time.
Nithyanand, what are your
Absolutely
thoughts?
spot on, Sundaram.
And what do you think about the deeper
My
troubles that we
thought,
could see in the midfield? Yeah?
yep, yep. Like you said, they could score only 3 points. If you see the season, they usually perform well in qualifiers and they struggle with race pace. But they don't have qualifying pace at Spa either. Probably because of the setup, they went with high downforce or something. Still, that could be the reason. And race scoring 3 points below McLaren and Alpha Tauri. It is a disaster for them. It is a disaster for 2019 Mercedes.
That's
That's a
one way
bold
to
claim.
put it. That's a bold claim. I'm sure Racing Point disagree, but yeah, we know deep down we know. And just to complete the regular chain of events, Racing Point have been summoned to the stewards yet again for their brake ducts infringement. It's going to happen every race. It's going to happen every single race till the end of the season. But yeah, it's been a tricky race for Racing Point so far. But let's quickly round off the entire grid. We've got lots of other drivers in the midfield doing a good job as well. Verstappen finishing in third, not in the midfield, but he just had a bit of a dull race. So let's keep him on one side. We had Lando Norris in seventh, Alex Albon doing a decent job in P number 6. Gasly in 8th, as we spoke about. Stroll in 9th, Perez in 10th, Kvyat in 11th. Raikkonen finally showing good signs of recovery for Alfa Romeo in 12th. Then we have the Ferrari guys, Haas and Nicholas Latifi in P number 16. And that, I think, just leaves us on to the final point that we have for today, and which has to be the crash. So, Nithyanand, I think we'll start with you for this one. Unlucky for Antonio Giovinazzi, just getting on the AstroTurf and spinning out a little bit, and just George Russell being in the wrong place at the wrong time, I guess.
I believe both Gio and Russell were unlucky. Gio, I think, like you said, Astra curb, I mean, that might be the reason. And Russell tried to evade Giovinazzi.
Yeah.
Like, let us say, if he didn't react, it would have been worse. But he tried to evade Giovinazzi. The wheel came off Gio and hit Russell's halo. I'm really thankful for the halo. Thankfully, both drivers are fine. So I believe it's just both drivers are unfortunate today.
And Sundaram, for George Russell, this may be a huge blow, even for Giovinazzi, because we saw Giovinazzi doing quite a decent job in the early laps. Russell, as always, doing this good job in qualifying and trying to put his car up ahead. Just, I think, the wrong way for Williams to start their first race under new owners.
Seriously, I think they would have done a lot better if not for the crash. But I think that crash, it kind of neutralized the whole race as well.
Yeah.
Because if not for that crash, we could have seen a few more strategies in play. We could have seen a few more pit stops, one ahead. We could have seen some undercuts, some overcuts. But that crash kind of neutralized the whole race. And that's not how Williams would want to end their first race under new ownership. But I think we're all glad that the halo was there. And it speaks very important point about wheel tethers. I was seeing a video recently that wheel tethers are supposed to keep the wheel still connected to the car in the case of an impact or a crash. But seeing that wheel bounce off the track and hit George Russell's car, I was a bit scared for the first minute or two until I saw both the drivers out of the track. But then it goes on to emphasize why the halo is so important in terms of driver safety, and it also reminds me of Leclerc's and Alonso's crash from 2 years ago. So yeah, halo is at this point of time the best safety device that we have in Formula One right now, and I'm glad it worked out for them. I mean, I'm glad they're safe.
Indeed. And just before we wrap up, folks, if you had to choose one word to describe this Belgian GP, what would it be? For me, it would be slightly uneventful. But what's your take on this one? What would be one word that you would choose to describe the Belgian GP? I think we can go with you first, Sundaram.
I don't know. I think it was just decent at most.
But what about you, Nithyanand?
I would say below par because
That's two. That's two.
Yeah.
that's two. Yeah, I couldn't find one word for it. Because I expected a lot. Spa usually
Yeah.
gives us humdingers of a race. This is a little below par. I expected rain to arrive. It never arrived. So, yep, I would put it as below par.
Yeah, there were not
Absolutely.
a lot of variables on play today.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is
And
just
also,
fine.
you have top teams. They went with one tire strategy because of the safety car, like Sundaram said.
Yeah.
It neutralized the race. Also, last 10 to 15 laps, all top 7 drivers were managing their tires. That might be the case behind this
Yeah.
below par race.
Well, let's hope for good things. Let's hope for good things at Monza. Hopefully, it'll be a lot more energetic and a lot more fun to watch out for. But, folks, if you enjoyed this video, as always, please feel free to give it a like, to share this video with your fellow Formula One fans, because we know they'll be very interested to know the future implications that this race will have on the championship show. So, press that share button, share this video with them. And if you've come so far, what are you waiting for? Press that subscribe button as well. We know if you're enjoying the content, and it'll be good to have you on Pits To Podium more often as well. Once again, Nithyanand and Sundaram, an absolute pleasure to have you on the debrief videos. And let's see if we can have you on more often. It's been really fun to have your opinions on the show. Pleasure having you here, folks.
Sure.
And we'll see you next, I think, midweek, because we have yet another amazing video with the Circus F1 coming up in
Yep.
only a couple of
Yep.
days. So see you, folks. Enjoy the weekend, and let's hope that we have a good race in Monza. Bye-bye.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.